Hello, Asna.
Yes, hello, we can hear you.
Yeah, good. Just testing the. We'll start in a minute at 7 o'clock
Yes.
or 8 o'clock, maybe in Morocco. Okay, yeah, I think we started at 7 o'clock GMT. As we agreed, this is the time we're going to start. I'm Dr. Chikari. I'm one of the anesthetics consultants in UK. I'm talking to you from just outside London. And I can see that we got medical students and young doctors from different parts of North Africa and some from Europe. So welcome to this webinar, which I hope that gives you some inspiration and some direction on how to obtain a medical career in the United Kingdom. So I have been in the I have been in the United Kingdom since 1998. I graduated in Morocco, and then I decided to go straight away and do all my training in the United Kingdom, where I obtained my training specialty or training diploma in Oxford hospitals. And I'm currently working as a consultant in North London for the last 14 years. So apart from my clinical work, which is to do with anesthesia and caring for patients in different parts of the hospital, I've been doing a lot of management and education training, and of course I contributed with a lot of colleagues in research and publications. My decision to come to this country go back to when I was at the second year of medical school. So I did visit London during summer, and I fell in love with the city. And I visited some of the universities, and at that time I said, this is where I'm going to do my training. At that time I didn't know what's the system, and that system in fact hasn't changed. So what I did back in '97 and what people did before me is the same right now. So nothing has changed in matter of you having the same path. So it was a dream at that time, but it turned to be a project when I started doing English at the third year of medical school. I invested in the English language in the American Center. Back at that time, there were few centers, and it was part of my training education, which continued throughout my medical school. And once I had my qualification, I just registered for the exam. At that time, the English exam was part of the PLAB. So you take the English, then you take the MCQs, and the following day, you take the practical. That's changed a bit now. So the process hasn't changed. It is still the same. It is simple. The first thing is that you got to have a qualification from a medical school which is recognized by UK. There is a way of checking that through our website, which the team will share with you. So you enter the name of your medical school, and it tells you whether that is recognized. It's instant. If you have that, you've got to spend 1 year as clinical experience after your qualification. There is a bit difference here. If you are, for example, from Morocco, where the diploma is an MD, usually they finish medical school at the 5th year, then they do 2 years house officer, and then they submit a thesis. So, for example, if you have the same system as in Morocco, or which is based on American system, that means that you've already spent 2 years experience. So you can start the process the time you submit your thesis, the time you are ticked as doctor or you have an MD. So the first step, of course, is English, and it's professional English to evaluate whether you are good at English or not is to take the IELTS. And I think that every country have a British center or British Council, and they provide IELTS. Unfortunately, for medicine, and only for medicine, they want you to have the highest score, which is 7.7, not less than 7. And there is a reason for that, because you are going to communicate with patients. And the most important in recruiting or developing a doctor is to be safe for what they do. So English is something you can do, and you can start preparing for it, as I did from year 2 of my medical school, in fact. Once you have that 7.5, you can write to the General Medical Council to send them your certificate and your exam or the IELTS score, to tell them that I've got this qualification, I am capable to speak English, I want to take the PLAB test. And usually they will write back to you, they will tell you, you're welcome, and you got to choose to take the first part of PLAB test, which is 3 hours of MCQs. The MCQs are multiple choice questions. That's what MCQs stand for. They are based on mainly clinical knowledge, very rarely on basic science. So it is mainly what you know to do to treat a patient. And the importance of the PLAB to access a career in United Kingdom is to ensure that your competencies are at the level of a doctor who graduated in the United Kingdom. So that's why you got an exam and only thing which tells them that this doctor is safe to practice is the exam. So the first part is MCQs. MCQs can be taken in different centers. So if you take North Africa, the nearest one is Egypt. If you take beyond Egypt is Emirates. South is Nigeria, and but probably some people prefer to go to London altogether to take the exam. So for that, you would to have a tourist visa, which normally would be granted to you as you got a reason you are traveling. So it's 3 hours exam. They give you the results, and when you pass that, you can take the PLAB 2. The PLAB 2 exam is practical. So we got a certain number of stations, and each station has 8 minutes and something to do or to talk about or to demonstrate. And it's really sort of real time. So we may give you a mannequin, which is simulation, to show how you can resuscitate a patient, or how to examine the abdomen, or they can give you an actor. You can speak to the actor about bad news, that's communication, or anatomy or something else, but it's practical. So we got 16 stations, 8 minutes, very objectively scored. So really, they don't. It's very, really unlikely that there is discriminate among people. So people who are good at it, they would pass. People who need a bit more development, they would have to repeat the exam. So when you pass the PLAB 2, at that time you can have the full registration with the General Medical Council, which means that you are fully competent to practice in the United Kingdom. That's the license they give you, and that's the time you start. You can look for a job. Jobs are generally available, but what you would find, and that happened to all doctors, is that for 3 to 6 months you will do a period of observation. So you will find a hospital to a consultant, and that's not difficult, and you spend some time in a department of your choice, whether it's accident and emergency or surgery or orthopedics or medicine, and you do some observation. You are not allowed to touch the patient unless you have a contract with that hospital. And the importance of that is that it allows you to familiarize yourself with the system. It's very important. I mean, if you're really good in matter of knowledge, you still, and competencies, you still have to do that period of observation. And I'm saying it lasts from generally 2 months to 6 months. And during that period, you start looking for a job. So the first job is generally you are in a department where you are paid to deliver a job. And of course, you are doing that job under supervision. During your training, you got always somebody to supervise you. And what we mean by supervision, it could be immediate. So you are doing things under the immediate supervision of a consultant, or it could be local. So there is the consultant is within reach, or it could be distant. So the consultant is at home and you are doing the work, and that's supervision. It will increase or it will reduce from immediate to distant according to your development, your experience, and your expertise. So you are not alone until you become a consultant. So when you become a consultant, you are responsible on some trainees. So you're never alone. You work in a department, there are colleagues. You never feel like you are out of your breath. You find you have a challenge, ask questions, you have answers, you have people to help you. So the first job generally, again, it depends where you want to do it, in the specialty you want to have. So you are paid to do that job, you are earning as you are learning, and then you enter the program of training, which is competitive. And the competition is based on you presenting your CV, and that's important that your CV has some of the competencies in matter of knowledge, skills, and attitude. So not only medical, knowing that you just graduated from medical school, so you don't have much experience, but the experience you can to show to these people that you are better than others could be the education you've done, the quality improvement projects, the research, publications, some voluntary work, or even your hobbies. If you were a musician, or so, just to show that you got a character, you work with people, you work in teams, you got some leadership skills, and that's the difference between different candidates. So when you got to the CT1, it's CT1, CT2, so it's like a resident in the Moroccan system. Again, there is a salary for that, and then you register with one of the colleges which oversee the specialty you want to be. So if you want to be an anesthetist, you got to register with the Royal College of Anesthetists. If you want to be a surgeon, you register with the Royal College of Surgeons. And those colleges are the one who oversee your training. So they follow you to your training in matter of evaluating you, training you, making sure that you are at the right place, you are supported, you got mentor, and you are doing the right thing to progress. Everything is ticked. You got a logbook about the cases you do, the procedures you do, the training you do, the courses you attend, the conferences you present. So it's not only medical training, it's not only what you do, it's about what you know, how you share the information, how you innovate, how you publish, and you come up with the new ideas. That's the beauty of the training in the United Kingdom. It's not only about the medicine. And then when you do CT1, CT2, you apply for the, you continue on the specialty, the specialty you like to carry on, that becomes specialty training, and that specialty training extends from ST3 to ST5, for example, for anesthetic, and it expands to ST3 to ST8 for other specialties, for example, neurosurgery or cardiothoracic surgery. And in between, at ST4, ST5, a lot of people, they will take a year break, and they can go to do a fellowship in some other field like education, research, or do a master, or they go to other countries like Australia or New Zealand or Africa, where they spend a year doing the train still in the specialty, but they are doing something different, which could be getting specialty in some competencies. Like if you are a general surgeon, you want to be better in colorectal, for example. So you spend that year doing just colorectal in a center of excellence who do colorectal. If you want to do, for example, robotic, you may spend a year in a center where you want just to do robotics. Or you can spend a year doing education, for example, in countries where they need educators. So you create projects and all that, because after you become a consultant, you want to be working as a doctor, but also you want to do education. Most of the consultants in the United Kingdom, they do day-to-day job of looking after patients, but most of them, they have some subspecialty interests in certain fields. So some of them, they are educators, some of them are managers, some of them, they are researchers, some of them are involved in law, and some of them, they just want to have easy life. They don't want to do something else. So this is generally the path for somebody who just graduated from medical school, and straight away they go to do the blood test. For doctors who are already practicing, whether they are practicing in a specialty or they are practicing as in family medicine, they still can have a career in medicine in UK, and there is still a path for that. Whether they want to do blood test, that's again up to them. But the other way of doing it is sponsorship. So what we mean by sponsorship is, of course, the first thing again is English. Whatever the case for you is English. You've got to have that 7.5 in IELTS. I forgot to mention that there is another new exam in English which is more appropriate for doctors and nurses, which is the OET. OET, which is the Occupation English Test, and it is more appropriate for doctors as the subjects are more healthcare. But the difficulty, it is the same as the IELTS. That's an exam you can prepare for. There are countries which have centers, but I think that, for example, if you are in North Africa, you've got to take the exam outside North Africa. The nearest point for you is Madrid or London again, or I think that Egypt is the nearest point for you. So a lot of people, they advise doctors and nurses who took the OET and the IELTS, they would advise you to take the OET just because it is more healthcare convenient. So if you are going to the sponsorship, again, there are no slides, I'm sorry. I had enough of PowerPoint. So there are no slides. I will show you some slides later if needed, but there are no slides. So you do sponsorship. And sponsorship means that you fund a job in a hospital, and there are a lot of hospitals who offer jobs because there are always jobs. So you find that job, and I'll tell you how you can find jobs because there are websites you can look at. Then you write to the Royal College of the specialty where you are already practicing in your home country. For example, if you are a surgeon, you write to the Royal College of Surgeons, and you ask them there is an application you fill. You tell them that there is a job in Hospital A in London, for example, and I need sponsorship from you. And what they will ask you, question 1 is English, question 2 is your CV. And as long as you have enough experience, which is about 2 years experience in the specialty, they will give you the sponsorship, which you can present to the General Medical Council. And the General Medical Council, again, the first question is, do you speak English? can you really have a good command of English? You show them the results of the IELTS and the sponsorship from the college and the position in the hospital, and you can pursue that training. Normally, you got a 2-year training, and after the 2 years, you got to go back to your country. And if you want to go back to UK, you've got to apply again you've got to. There are different ways which allows you to go back if you need to. And during that 2 years, a lot of people, they take exam for the college exam, and they gain more specialty training, which allow them, if they want to go back to UK, to pursue the training to become a consultant. They can do that. So that's grosso modo the how things happen in the United Kingdom. The jobs are available on the NHS jobs website, which will be sent to you by the team tomorrow or Monday. They are available on the BMJ journal or website every week. In fact, now with the internet, there are jobs which are advertised every day. And there are, in fact, countries who are have some government relation between the UK and, for example, their own country. So they have schemes where they send a certain number of trainees to the United Kingdom. For example, we had in our department trainees coming from Sri Lanka at a regular basis, and that's because there was an agreement between the Royal College of Anaesthetists and the Ministry of Health in Sri Lanka. So that's something your government or Ministry of Health of your university, if they create those links with the bodies in UK, they can have that channel open for trainees, and it could be vice versa, in a way that trainees or doctors from your country go to UK, and doctors from UK, they come to your country to do that year fellowship or do some training. So it's a two-way system. So generally, this is the way you carry on with it. You have to go through, which hasn't changed. As I told you, it is probably, I would say, simple. English first, Club 1, Club 2, and you are registered with the General Medical Council, and you just have to pursue your career in the United Kingdom. If you are already practicing doctor, your way is either you do PLAB or you look for sponsorship through the Royal Colleges and the General Medical Council after having secured a job in a hospital. This is it, simple. So I don't want to be talking for too long, because we want to answer questions rather than keep telling you too many stories. So there is this talk. In fact, I think I already answered many of the questions that you already sent. In matter of choosing the specialty, and there are some people who ask, can I do dermatology? You can do dermatology, of course, but every job is competitive. And the competition is open to everybody, whether you are English, British, or outside. And it's based on your CV and your application, what you've done and what you can offer to give. And I can tell you, generally, there is no discrimination between A or B. In matter of salaries, the salaries are the same, whether you are English, British, or others. So it's all about the what you can offer and what you can do. Of course, when you are getting to the summit of the pyramid, there is more competition. But generally, as you may know, 30% of the doctors in the United Kingdom are non-British. So every year there is a number of doctors who come to UK. This has been going for many years, and it will carry on for many years. And every year there are doctors who come, but there are other doctors who leave. They go back to their countries to after having finished the training. So it's a two-way system. So you're welcome to ask questions if you want to. I don't know, is Zubaydah with us?
No, she's not with us now.
All right, Zubaydah.
Ahmed, there is a question from Facebook from Maryam Abu Said. She said, "Hi doctor, I have a question about medical initiative training. I have 2 years experience as general practitioner, and I took the OET, but there is no seat available for PLAB because of the pandemic. So what can she do?"
Well, I think that she talked about the medical initiative training. This is what we are. I said about sponsorship. So she's right that the PLAB just stopped because of pandemic. It will come back. We are getting out of the crisis in the next few weeks and next month. But she can just do the sponsorship. She's got 2 years in experience. If she can look at the jobs for family doctors, general GPs, general physicians, or general practitioners, if you communicate with one of the GPs directly, if they have a job, they will offer you, if they offer you a placement, you can write to the General Medical Council and the Royal College of GPs, and you should be there, to be honest. So that's there are definitely jobs around. If they are not in London, they are in other places. I don't know if you have the grade B in OET. That's most important. If you have that, I think that you are not far, to be honest. It's just a matter of looking at the DMJ or the NHS jobs to find a placement. The other thing, you can also try the emergency medicine, accident in emergency, because some of the skills you have as a GP apply to emergency medicine, and you can just write in your application that you want to acquire more training and knowledge in ED, which would help me to do my job back home. That's a good intention, good objective. You find a job in ED, and there are generally more jobs in ED than a lot of other specialties. That's an option if you want to do ED, and ED normally is very diverse. And if you accept to do ED for 2 years, that's a good option for you. And when you are doing ED, if you want to do some GP training, surely when you are in here, you will find some practices, because you know the system and you can spend some time with them, whether you want to spend time as an observer, or you want to spend time to work for them and they pay you for that training. So you are learning and earning. So it's quite possible.
Yes, thank you. And also a question from Ikram Bilahsan. She said, "Mr. Shukairi, what about students in hospital management and logistics?"
I don't understand. Are the medical students?
She didn't specify that. She just said student in hospital management and logistics. Can you please, Ikram, specify about this?
If they are medical students, of course you've got your first job is to treat patients, and you've got to train to do that. But as you are training, as I said, the training in UK is diverse. Not only they want you just to train patients, but they want you to have other skills in management, in leadership, in education, or in other fields. Because at the end of the day, when you get to a consultant job is a high position where you have to decide on the health of a population. So that's the one of the advantages of training in UK. So they make out of you a leader rather than just a doctor who care for one patient or the patient in front of him.
Yes,
Somebody is
thank you.
asking about the two ways. I think it will be unfair for others to repeat again what I said. All what I can tell you, the team will send you more information about the two ways in a presentation, PowerPoint presentation, and as a diagram, and they will indicate for you where to get the more information. So the two ways, either you take the blood test or sponsorship. Sorry about that. Any other questions?
Yes, there is a question from Abdul Malik Saidi. He said, is it possible to register in UK as a public health doctor and not as a GP? How is it possible to work remotely in France and go to UK from time to time? I am living 45 minutes from here, I think. You write this.
I'm not sure about the public health, to be honest. I think that public health, I know from when myself I was preparing for the blood test back in 1997. I met some friends who were preparing for the blood, but also they were doing masters in public health, and in fact they were doing that for the reason to carry on public health. Really, I'm not sure whether there is definitely a path which is public health, and it follows the same procedure as I told you, which is either you take the plug or the sponsorship. And of course, you've got to do some masters, which is related to public health. I cannot really give you too much information about this because it's very it's a particular case. We can look for the information and send it to you on an email.
Thank you. There's also a question from Haytham Mohammed. He said, do you accept medicals or nurse from Egypt?
We don't have any say whether we accept or not, because we are not we don't employ or but I can tell you the United Kingdom, it accepts doctors and nurses from the Egypt, and I think if you were talking about North Africa, the highest proportion of doctors and nurses, they come from Egypt. The two systems are different. For nurses, they have a different way of access to the training, which is probably easier than doctors. But if you look around in Egypt, and if you try to get into forums where they are run by Egyptians, I personally met a lot of Egyptian doctors. I hardly met Moroccan, Tunisian, or Algerian, but Egyptian are there is plenty of them. So the answer is yes for doctors and nurses.
Yes, thank you.
And the same process, same English exam, and then register. And in fact, I don't know whether, I mean, you mentioned Egypt, because I'd like to mention the name of the eminent cardiothoracic surgeon, Mr. Yaqub. Mr. Yaqub, he's retired now, but I think that he's still active in Egypt through charity and through research. At his time, he was the most popular cardiothoracic surgeon in the world. He invented a lot of things, and himself, he just did the same thing. He came to the UK to take the blood, and the story I heard from him is that after he took the blood, he couldn't find the first job. because that time there was a bit, they are like jobs, they come like in waves. Sometimes there are more jobs than others. That was in the past. Once he found a job, as I told you, he became the most popular cardiothoracic surgeon. So you can Google Mr. Mahfouz Yaqub, Mr. Yaqub, and you'll find his name. He's Egyptian.
Thank you so much. Yes, you answered about the question. He said, are the steps the same? So they are the same. About another question from Kautar Iraqi Hussein from YouTube. She said, please, I am a gynecologist in Morocco. What are the steps to practice in the UK? And are the TOEFL or IELTS tests mandatory?
Answer is yes. The TOEFL is not mandatory and it doesn't have a value for United Kingdom. It has a value for the US. The United Kingdom, they want the IELTS and they want 7.5 in the IELTS, not less than 7. The IELTS, it has 4 components. It has writing, reading, listening, and speaking. It is an exam. It is a tough exam, but many people have done it and passed it. I did. So the evidence is there. As I said, for you, if you already practice as a gynecologist, you can better for you to do sponsorship. And again, I'm sure that you will find a place at a hospital to give you a position for training for 2 years. And through that, that's what we call the medical initiative training. And you can train for 2 years. And we say training is that you are going to be trained and getting paid. And at the end of the 2 years, you've got to come back to your country. Whether you want to stay in country or you want to go back, that's another reason. But definitely it's possible. But unfortunately, the first step is English. By the way, for Better Health Academy, we've got very good courses for English. And we advise people to, if they are thinking about trying, start at least doing the medical English. If you are already have a good level of English, start preparing for the IELTS. And then if you already got IELTS, start preparing for the PLAB test. So you can do, in fact, all 3 or all 2 in parallel. So if the team will show you the courses which are run by experts from London and Cambridge, and they apply to the medical profession, and they are really affordable for people who are in Africa. Any other question, Matt?
Yes, thank you. A question from Aisman Wisar. She said, when I pass the exam, do I have to search for the job or the academic find it for me? And do I have to search for place where I stay when I go there, even if I don't know anything there? And about the salary, the local, and the contract.
Yeah, I think that's one thing I'll tell you. Once you start this process and you put your mind that you want to go there, you are going to learn a lot of things. And you're lucky that you got the internet and all that. I didn't have that. I went in the dark, so I just said I will go to UK, and I went to UK, and I learned things when I arrived. You've got to support yourself until you get a salary. So as I said, you've got in fact to pay for the IELTS, you've got to pay for the PLAB, and you've got to pay for the PLAB 2 test. That's all investment. And when you are in UK doing observation, as I said, for 3 months or 6 months, up to 6 months, you have to find a way to support yourself. But from the day you get a job, you get a salary. So the first salary at your level, if you already at the CT1, what we call CT1, it starts, I think, at 40,000 a year, pound. So £40,000 a year, it's a very good salary in United Kingdom for a young person. And that's for your basic hours. So you work for 48 hours and you are paid for 40,000 a year. And for every other hour you work, you get more paid. So the time you are working in the hospital, you get paid that amount. And hospitals normally they always have some extra work. If you do extra work like an on-call or something like that, you get paid for that. So the salary starts from 40,000, and each year we get an increment, and it increases to the time you become a consultant. It starts from 80,000, but this is the basic. So you can, if you do more work, you earn more. Okay, Muad, we've got another 5 minutes.
Yes, we have still some question from Wisal El Wahidi. She asked, yes, and about income and taxes in the UK, and especially training.
Well, everybody has to pay taxes. As the British say, there are two things which are you cannot escape in life is taxes and debt. So the taxes, everybody pay them, and they are different scales. But if you are earning 40,000, I mean, you got enough to live with. I mean, the tax gets paid. You get paid a salary, and the taxman take his part every month from your salary, which is calculated on the number on what you earn. So in UK they have different scales. So the first, for example, 12,000 you don't pay any tax, and I think between 12 and 25 you pay certain amount. Between 25 and 40 you pay a certain amount. So that's how life it is in UK, and people they accept that. But generally, the average salaries in UK it's about 24,000. So you can imagine that 40,000 it's much higher than that. Whether you are a trainee or the time you are earning, you are going to pay the taxes. Muad?
Yes, thank you for the answer. Kautar Iraqi Husseini from YouTube asked again how she can handle the PLAB test.
Good question. I mean, the PLAB test, I mean, as I told you, it's an exam which it's done every year, and a lot of people have taken the PLAB, and most of them they pass the exam. There is a book which is most important, which is the Oxford Handbook of Medicine, which I think the team will send an image, a picture of it, and that's your Bible. So you got to read that book from page 1 to page whatever. And there are plenty of MCQs now on the internet. You can register with the companies. They have website. They have plenty of MCQs. So it is like any other exam. Really, you've got to concentrate on preparing for that exam, for the technique, and for the knowledge you have to acquire. And the time, I can tell you, the time when we take the PLAB test, it was just some kind of photocopies and few books. There weren't much resources, but now there are dozens of books, there are dozens of websites, there are dozens of forums, and there are courses as well. So there are courses, I mean, whether the online courses, and in fact, we are going to launch an online course in May. And there are courses you can attend, especially for the practical one. The kind of help you have now, it's really amazing. So it's like any other exam. I'm sure that you've taken too many exams. With any exam, you got to prepare the right thing, and you got to sacrifice some of the time, some of your money, of course, because you have to invest in books and all that, and you are there. That's the beauty of exam. Once you pass the exam, it's you forget about it. No, you cannot take the plug before the IELTS, because as I told you, the General Medical Council will not answer your email. In fact, they will answer your email, but if you don't have the IELTS, you don't have 7.5, no point to write to them. It's clear. And it's even better for you not to do that, because you don't want to waste your time. And you don't want to waste your money. So the first thing is English. English, English. And of course, you can prepare for English and you prepare for the PLAB, especially if you are, for example, in year 5 of medical school, you can start doing that in parallel. So by the time you finish, you can take the exam rather than do one by one. Muad, if there are no questions, I think we'll let people go and enjoy their Friday evening.
Yes, I think that's it for the questions.
All right. I hope that it was useful. Thank you all. And I hope that you got a bit clearer about how you can pursue your career in UK. And thank you, team in Mohammedia. And good luck.
Thank you so much for this amazing webinar. Everyone will send you the recording. Have a nice weekend.